Okay, so we are back in the Chemish, and Chodesh Tov, got the white shirt on. I was going to go bicycling today, but I think got the Levi today. Rabbi J. Marcus from Staten Island, literally built the Jewish community in Staten Island. Levi's today, Herzl Chaim, so probably going to that. And it's appropriate actually that I'm going to have switch my Dvar Torah. I was going to say something else, my Moranayim, but go with my favorite. One of my favorite Dvar Torah is really a little twist on that. So Parsh told Vivas Esav's Hapchora, and Esav embarrasses the Bechora. So what took place? How do you sell the Bechora for beans, bread, some soup? What was it worth? What's it worth? So Evan Ezra has this beautiful Mahalach that Yitzchak was poor. Yitzchak was poor. And he has all these different proofs. Esau's like, I don't need the Bechora. There's nothing here. It's $1 million. There's no way. Boom. Second, Yaakov has to borrow. Rivka says, wear Esav's clothes to get the Bechora. Yaakov had nothing special. When Yaakov leaves to go to Lavan, again, he has nothing to take with him. He was poor. The house was poor. Yitzchak is reliant on Esav to go hunting for animals. Yitzchak was poor. He had nothing. Okay, halach. So years ago, I didn't know this existed. Didn't know this existed. But my friend Michael Berger in Atlanta shows me this Ramban, and the Ramban just takes this apart. And towards the end, he says that Ibn Ezra is blind to say such a thing, and I recoiled in shock that the Ramban would insult someone. Tzaddik would insult someone. But this apparently is the style of some of the Rishonim. Get a little harsh at sometimes each other. But this Ramban, go through this Ramban, how each point Ibn Ezra takes, he just rips it apart. And the biggest proof he has why he hates, this Mahalach is that Hashem blesses Yitzchak 2 times. And we know that he was very wealthy. Avimelech is so jealous he has to send him away from town. They hate him. Meishar, and they steal from him. And he's wealthy. The wealthiest person on the planet, probably, wealthy than all the Avos, is Yitzchak. There's no way for Yitzchak that he was poor. He got him to send food because he wanted to do something for him. He had and he goes through he slugs up Evan Ezra really. And that's kind of his vart. That's his thing. He doesn't like this idea. Okay, so it's one of my favorite Rambans because it just opened my eyes to really appreciating Parsha and appreciating the personalities of, you try to learn, my Mahalach is to spend a year or 2 to learn a Sefer, and you can then understand some of the personalities, some of the things they say between the words, their history. I enjoy that part of it. So I got really started to do this, and I spent a lot of time with the Ramban, Kol Yakar, Beit L'chai, Sforno, so different. It's been a year or 2. Sfas Emes, Brit Tzaddik, and Mar Shemesh. So this week I'm looking at the Be'er HaParsha, Rav Mach Biederman, best 3 shekels you can buy, who quotes the Sfas Emes, Ksav Emes, excuse me, Ksav Sofer, who says not crazy. It's very possible, and it makes sense that Yitzchak was poor. What? Because there's no way Esav would have sold the Bechorah for some soup, even though he was dead tired and he was exhausted and he couldn't even pick up his hands. Yaakov had to feed him the food. There's no way Esav would have sold the Bechorah if there'd be money there. There's no way. And if there was money there, Esav would have maybe bought his own food or paid someone to get him food. So the fact that Esav treats the Bechorah as nothing, the stomach, there's nothing to it. And he loves this idea. And you think about it, it makes a lot of sense now. And the Rabbi Biederman says this Hashgacha Pratis in Parnas and everything, Hashgacha Pratis. That's possible, very possible, that Yitzchak was very wealthy. And for a short tekufa, he lost his money. And then he got wealthy at the end, or maybe never got his money back, and Yaakov was poor, whatever. But it's very possible. And he quotes a story of the Chelkas Yaakov, or Rabreish, Mordechai Yaakov Breish has an interesting story, a very fascinating story. I think I've heard of him, but Rab Reich was a rabbi in Switzerland, and they were all nervous in World War II that they'd be, that the Germans were going to come over. They were really freaking out. And Rab Reich says, "Nope, I met a soul. It's not going to happen." And the government, they were preparing to be conquered. Literally, all the other countries Germany goes into, Switzerland, they're right there, and everyone's freaking out. Not just the Jews, everyone's freaking out. And Bryce says, not going to happen because recently I happened to meet a Nazi, German soldier, and we were talking, and he assured me it's not going to happen. And it's Hashgacha that I met this soldier, not going to happen. And it turns out that obviously did not happen, but they were very close to it. Apparently, Hitler wanted the Swiss banks, wanted to keep them intact so he can take over all this money and all these riches. So he left Switzerland. But that's one story. But the real story of Hashgacha practice about money is Rabbi Biderman brings in his Bear Parsha, is that this Mordechai Yaakov, Rabbi Reich, who was a wealthy man in Poland, extremely wealthy, and he was about to buy this huge hotel, apartment buildings in Poland, and the day before the transaction takes place, all you had to do was sign a contract. That's all you had to do. The deal was set. This wealthy man was going to be even wealthier, set up for life that he can now do this, own hotels, own apartment buildings, learn for the rest of his life. It's all set up. And the day before the contract is the crash stock market in 1929. And this literally changes his life. He goes from the wealthiest person in town to the poorest person. And in shame and embarrassment and humiliation, he has to leave and seek a job doing something else. And he goes to Switzerland, goes to Zurich, becomes a rabbi. Not the path that he wanted. He wanted to be a businessman. He was a wealthy person. And this is what happened. He goes to Switzerland. And of course, we know the end of the story. Chelkas Yaakov, who actually becomes a rabbi, he looks back and he says, this moment that I was so wealthy and Hashem took it away, the crash, the stock market, the day before takes place. The day before it takes place, I become penniless. Saved my life. Because not only does he not get killed, but he, in his chuvas, in the Chelkas Yaakov, writes all these responses, all these chas and chuvas for Agunos and all these people after the war, and he becomes a major Yeshua for the people during World War II, after World War II, and he dies in 1976, and lives a long life. And this was his turn of his life. So Rabbi Biderman brings the story down and says it's literally Hashgacha Pratis. These things happen, and it's very possible. Yes, Hashem gives you a bracha. That's part of the bracha. Becoming poor at a certain time isn't a curse. For him it was a bracha. And sometimes we look at our lives, things happen, things don't happen. Oh, it's a terrible time in my life. And then you kind of have 2020, you play quarterback, Monday morning quarterback, and you're like, boy, that helped me. And I think back, it's very apropos for today. I was 10 years in Staten Island, as some of you know, most of you know, maybe none of you know. And I was at JP Morgan Chase for a couple of years, and life was good. Had a house and making good money, I guess. And IBM took over the IT department, and about a year later, they got rid of us, and devastated. It was a devastating moment. The life was great. Everything was good, and that's my job. I had nothing. But part of the severance was you have one course to take. You take one, you spend money on tuition or something. So I took an SAP course because I heard in Israel that SAP was a big deal. And kachaya, this actually led to making aliyah. I went without really much of a job. I did technical writing in Israel for a little bit, but then I do SAP work. I still do it, QA work. And I tell people that one of the best things in my life was getting fired by JP Morgan Chase. The technology that I used at JP Morgan Chase went out of style. They don't use it anymore. I would have literally been unemployed 10 years later with really nothing. And getting laid off at JP Morgan Chase IBM was one of the greatest things that happened in my life. And at the time, I was devastated. Didn't have a job, didn't have work, and I made Aliyah, and my life is just 180 degrees. And this is literally, part of little Staten Island. So unfortunately, remembering Staten Island today because Reb Marcus died yesterday, no lives today, and he literally, the community of Staten Island, no one can say that they're not affected by him. There's 20, 30 shuls now in Willowbrook with all the Hasidim that moved in there. But, when Rabbi Marcus came there, that was it. That was Staten Island. It was the young Israel. That was it. And they had good, and Rabbi Pollock all followed, Rabbi Lawrence and Chabad and all the Sephardi places and all the Hasidim now. But if you're old time Staten Island, again, I was there 10 years, but people there before me, Rabbi Marcus was the leader, was the leader of the whole town. And he started Reshit, Yeshiva Reshit, beautiful campus in Beit Shemesh, and his sons, all the Rosh Yeshivas. It's a beautiful family. My friend Joel, his son married into the family. It's a beautiful family and wonderful people, and the boys that come out of there. And it's just an incredible place. And you go there, you see all the plaques on the wall from all the old Staten Islanders, and just that's kind of that. So that's kind of really what this parish is all about, and what Yitzchak shows us is that you're rich and you come poor, and that's a bracha too. That's part of the bracha. There's no bad things of Hashem. And this is literally this fusion of Chesed and Gvura. It's all from Hashem. We see pieces. We see, oh, that's a good day. There's a bad day. I fell on the bicycle. Well, it's a bad day. Oh, I got a new job. That's a good day. We see these things in different events, and this guy is having a good day. This guy has a great life. And this guy has a horrible life. And this guy is sick. And this guy's doing well. This guy has a new car. We see pieces. Oh, Hashem's chesed with this guy. Oh, it's gevura with this guy. It's din with that guy. No, it's all tov. Everyone has their own cheshbon with Hashem. Everyone has it's all tov. We see through the prism, but really, it's all chesed. It's all tov from Hashem, and that's kind of what we have to take from this parsha. And with that, Chodesh Tov, Shabbat Shalom.